Let's be brutally honest. Most people read headlines. Smart investors read money movement. And right now, the headlines are screaming fear. Middle East conflicts, oil prices rising, inflation refusing to disappear, global recession fears getting louder, interest rates staying high, business uncertainty everywhere. Everywhere you look, people are asking the same question. Is now the worst time to buy property? And logically, it feels like the answer should be yes. Because if inflation is high, if the global economy is slowing, if borrowing is expensive, property prices should fall, buyers should disappear, the market should weaken. But that's not what is happening. In fact, the rich are still buying, foreign capital is still entering, institutional investors are still positioning, luxury projects are still moving, good resale units are still being fought over. And that creates the real question. What do they know that most people don't?
Because smart money does not move emotionally, it moves strategically.
Today, we are going to break down exactly why Singapore property in 2026 is still attracting serious wealth, while everyone else is frozen by fear. And more importantly, how you should think if you want to protect and grow your wealth in this market. Because panic is expensive, strategy is profitable. Let's begin. Part 1. Why global fear is making Singapore stronger. Most people think global crisis destroys property markets. Sometimes it does, but sometimes it does the exact opposite. Let me explain. When conflict happens in the Middle East, oil prices rise. That sounds simple, but the consequences are massive. Oil affects everything: transport, shipping, manufacturing, food production, even fertilizer. Yes, fertilizer. Because large-scale agriculture depends heavily on energy-intensive fertilizer production. When oil rises, fertilizer becomes more expensive.
When fertilizer becomes more expensive, food prices rise globally.
Now inflation gets worse. Now central banks cannot cut rates easily. Now businesses slow down. Now recession fears rise. This is the domino effect. And when this happens, wealth does not disappear, it relocates. Read that again. Wealth does not disappear, it relocates. And where does it go? It goes to safety, political stability, strong currency, transparent legal systems, asset protection, capital security. That is exactly why Singapore wins. Singapore is not just a property market. It is a wealth preservation hub, a financial vault, a safe harbor during a global storm. That's why when the world gets unstable, Singapore becomes more attractive, not less. This is why foreign buyers still enter. This is why family offices still accumulate. This is why institutional money keeps flowing. Because rich people are not asking, can I get the cheapest property? They are asking, where can I protect millions safely? That is a completely different question, and that changes everything. Part 2. The biggest mistake buyers make. Now here's where normal buyers get destroyed. They assume, if Singapore is safe, any property is safe. Wrong. Very wrong. The market can be safe. Your purchase can still be terrible. A good market does not protect bad buying. Let me say that again. A good market does not protect bad buying. Your biggest protection is not location, it is entry price. This is where most buyers fail. They buy based on show flat emotions, agent urgency, launch day hype, FOMO, status, ego. And then they overpay. And once you overpay, you destroy your own investment. Because profit is made at entry, not at exit. This is why serious investors use something called a strict cutoff entry point. Meaning, before you buy anything, you define the maximum safe price, not emotional price, not I really like this unit price. Math, data,
Rental yield, historical transactions, relative market value. That's your ceiling.
And if the developer price exceeds that, you walk away. No matter how beautiful the showroom is, no matter how good the sales pitch sounds, no matter how scared you are of missing out, you walk away. Because overpaying for premium property is still overpaying, and overpaying turns assets into liabilities. Discipline matters more than opportunity. Always. Part 3. The CCR versus OCR trap. Now let's talk about one of the most dangerous mistakes in 2026. Comparing new launches badly, especially OCR versus CCR. CCR means core central region, prime districts, luxury, central, prestige. OCR means outside central region, suburban, family-focused, mass market. Places like Bayshore, Tampines, Pasir Ris, Punggol. Now here's the trap. Developers launch beautiful suburban projects, amazing marketing, smart home systems, beautiful pools, Instagram-worthy clubhouses, and buyers get emotionally pulled in. Suddenly, OCR projects are selling at prices dangerously close to CCR resale condos. That is dangerous, because historically, OCR should trade at a meaningful discount to CCR. That price gap matters. If suburban pricing gets too close to prime pricing, you are paying luxury pricing without luxury positioning. That is a red flag. Let's make it simple. If prime central property is $2,500 PSF and suburban launch is asking $2,100 PSF, you need to stop and think. Because if market correction happens, the suburban property usually gets hit first. Prime locations defend value better. This is called CCR relativity. Smart investors always compare. Never buy in isolation. Because sometimes the cheaper suburban launch is actually the more dangerous purchase. And sometimes the better investment is the older prime resale. This is where most buyers get trapped. They buy marketing, not mathematics. Big mistake. Part 4. Penthouse versus landed. Lifestyle versus real wealth. Now let's talk about a high-level investor question. Penthouse or landed property? Same budget, very different asset. And this decision reveals how sophisticated you really are. Most people choose penthouse emotionally. Skyline views, prestige, facilities, luxury lifestyle, status. It feels powerful. But here's the truth. You are paying a massive premium for air, not land. That matters. Because in Singapore, land is the ultimate scarce asset. Land cannot be created. Views can be. Lifestyle premiums disappear during bad markets. Land value survives. That's why many wealthy investors quietly choose small landed homes over flashy penthouses. Less sexy, far stronger. Because when macro uncertainty rises, people stop paying crazy premiums for status. They return to intrinsic value. And intrinsic value is land. Always. So ask yourself, are you buying Instagram or are you buying wealth preservation? Very different decisions, and only one builds legacy. Part 5. Your biggest enemy is you. Let's be honest. The biggest threat to your property investment is not inflation. It's not war. It's not oil prices. It's you. Your emotions, your impatience, your fear, your ego. Because property buying is emotional. You walk into a showroom, beautiful lights, designer furniture, only 2 units left. Special discount today only. Suddenly, logic disappears. You stop being an investor, you become a buyer, and buyers lose money. This is why smart investors need a neutral advisor, not a salesperson, a strategist. Someone who can say, no. Someone who can protect you from yourself. Think of it like a gym spotter. You are lifting the weight, but when you try to overlift, someone needs to stop the damage. That is the role of a real consultant. Not to sell you, to protect your decision. Because one bad property decision can cost you 10 years, sometimes more. Final truth. So let's answer the big question. Why are the rich still buying while everyone else is panicking? Because they understand something most people don't. Safe haven is not about timing headlines. It is about positioning. They know. Fear creates hesitation. Hesitation creates opportunity. Opportunity rewards prepared people, not emotional people. They buy when others freeze, because they understand value. They understand entry price. They understand long-term wealth preservation. They are not chasing hype. They are protecting capital. That is the difference. And maybe the biggest mindset shift for 2026 is this. The safest property is not the best location. It is the best purchase price. A prime property bought badly is dangerous. An average property bought brilliantly is powerful. Never forget that. If you're planning to buy property in 2026, whether for own stay, investment, wealth preservation, or portfolio restructuring, do not make emotional decisions with million-dollar consequences. Let's map your strategy properly. Your income, your risk profile, your holding timeline, your exit strategy. No fluff, no guessing, no expensive mistakes. Just real numbers, real strategy, real positioning. Drop me a message. Let's stress test your next move before the market does. This is M.